What's going on, advocates? Welcome back to the Black Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Reg. Today I have a very special guest. This is a big interview for me because I see the work that this individual is doing, and I love people who are making impact and are doing the work that that needs to be done. I don't like to butcher anybody's introduction. I don't want to get a credential. I don't like to forget all the work. So please introduce yourself to the people.
Hey, you guys. My name is Princess Kenney. I'm one of the providers for Black Men Heal. I'm a therapist, a social worker, all-around healer. I enjoy providing clinical interventions for those who may be in crises or those who have suffer from some sort of trauma or some kind of crisis in their life at this time. I work with geriatrics right now. At my full-time job, I work with a range of populations at my part-time job, and I work with Black men for Black Men Heal. I also provide services for Age Well with Mel. That is a group for healthcare in regards to weight loss and just finding a healthy balance in your life. And I also work for Next Level Therapy, which is a family practice that I'm also a part of. So not to say there are pretty busy days.
No, and I'm writing down notes because you done said about 3 things that I wanted to ask you about. Again, I know you're a busy person, so I agree. I'm grateful that you took the time out to have this conversation. First, before we get into anything, how are you? How is Princess? How is you managing just your mental health? How are you?
I think I'm in a good space. I started walking recently. That's new for me. That was fun. It's been free in my neighborhood. And I continued yoga, which I haven't done in a while since COVID started. Probably like a lot of other people, I tried to do it virtually. It was kind of difficult. It gets a little lonely. So I just wanted to be connected with other people, like just kind of create synchrony. So going back into yoga has been fun. I've been thankful to be able to go to work. So work has always been a great staple for me. Mentally, I think I'm in a good space. I want to start writing my new book. So I was thinking about things like that. My birthday is coming up, so I am going to be traveling out the country. So I will be posting and just some real fun things like that.
Yes. So again, you do a lot. You have your hand in so many different spaces. How do you juggle that all as well, balancing that all as well as mental health for yourself? I'm asking for myself personally because it's like I'm juggling a lot too. So I like to get advice, tips, and tricks from people who are also doing it. Because I don't know if you're like me. I just bought a calendar just now. I'm like, I got to try different things that work. So let me know what works from you. What can I borrow from you?
Okay, so I think creating schedules is very important. Being very mindful and being aware of what you need to do. First, find out what do you like to do? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? Like I was working out with a trainer at one point, and we will always start off with these exercises. He called them bird dogs. And after a few months, I was like, you know what? I don't like doing it. So even though that's one of his recommendations, that's something that I don't like to do. And if I don't like to do it, then eventually I'm going to stop coming to him because I don't like the activity that I'm engaging in. So just making sure that you like what you're doing, that really helps with any kind of involvement with other people, any kind of self-care. So I like yoga. I like eating healthy. I like prepping my food. I like exercise. So make sure that you're engaging in things that you like to do. If it's evoking some kind of emotion, that's probably a good thing. Like sometimes when I write, you might start feeling sad, or you might start feeling happy, or you might start feeling curious. Like make sure that if these activities are evoking some kind of thought process, allow that thought process to kind of go, but that could be a part of your internal monologue. That could be a part of other worlds that is coming through you in a moment. Just being aware and being open to everything around you, just staying connected. Staying connected to others has been very important to me. Meditation is very important to me. That goes along with yoga. Prayer is important to me. Maintaining healthy boundaries is important to me. So it's layers on top of layers on top of layers, but it can be done.
Yes. And you're proof of doing it. but even especially that you do so much, what got you into everything you named earlier was all or surrounding mental health, surrounding like helping others and serving and participating in wellness. What got you into this field in the first place? Did you always knew this is where you wanted to be as a kid? That's one curious question that I'm getting answered recently. More recently, is are people what they wanted to be when they grew up? And so I pose that question to you amongst the other of, is this where like how did you even get into this field?
So okay, so my childhood was very interesting. I remember vividly that when I was younger, I don't remember what I wanted to be growing up youngest. Like I remember really enjoying Langston Hughes, like when I was in middle school. So I enjoyed poetry. But it's a bit of trauma in my own background because it was a lot going on with my parents. So I used to move from house to house. So I used to really value my writing when I was a child, diary wise. But when I used to come back home from the summertime, we would move houses. And then all of my work that I would write or all of my schoolwork would be gone and left in the last house. So I kind of strayed away from writing or like keeping personal thoughts written down because I didn't know where they would end up. So I kind of strayed away from that. So writing may have always been a passion, but I kind of put it to the side because of what was going on in my life. So then when I went into high school, I wanted to be a lawyer, and I was a part of mock trial. I was a part of mock trial for 2 years, and that's when a group of high school students, they present as lawyers and witnesses, and we're trained by professional lawyers. So I did really good. It was like debate, and we would go to state championship every year for 2 years straight, and that was like my senior year and my junior year of high school. And then when I went to high school, when I graduated high school, I wanted to be a radio broadcaster. Mm-hmm. It always involved talking to other people. But I remember wanting to be a radio broadcaster, and I think what discouraged me, I went to a class with one of these guys, and his voice was everything. Like he sounded like the perfect voice, and I was like, I don't have a voice like that. So I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work out. But at the time, obviously, I wasn't being rational because it's not just about the voice, but his voice was perfect to me. So yeah, and then I started working, just regular work. And I think my first job was McDonald's, but I remember when I graduated and I was leaving college, my first job was Applebee's, and I really had a niche for waitressing. So it's funny because I did research on therapy, and therapy it typically in the beginning of therapy, it wasn't something that you had to go to school for. Therapy was a natural talent. It was something that came within you. It was like it was like an assignment. So it was like either you could really talk to people and get to know people, or you couldn't. So I thought that was interesting because when I was a waitress, I would always ask people, what's wrong, or how are you doing? And, how are you coping with it? And they would come in, oh my God, my week was horrible. I want to talk to you about it. So that was like my introduction to it. And I'll never forget, I have two good stories. So at one job, I think it was at AHA, because I worked at a lot of different restaurants at this point, and I was doing a really good job. You have to be a people's person to be a good waitress. So I remember it was a white family, and there was a little girl that came in, and I really didn't remember serving them too much that often. But I remember them saying, we brought Sally or whatever her name is because she had a good week, and we wanted her to come see you because we wanted her to know that, it's nice to have a good week and you can encourage her. So I'm like, what are they doing here? Like, why'd they bring her to me? So that was like my first introduction to therapy when I look back. Like, they really brought this girl to me to talk to. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I worked in a dance club in another states, but I wasn't a stripper or anything. I was a waitress. So, and I say that because I ended up getting fired because I wasn't a stripper and the guy was making it rain. So he was like telling me, he was like, he came in there throwing all his money around. He was like, I had a bad childhood. He was telling me about his dad, how his dad had passed away. And, I'm just listening to him. Mm-hmm. So we were just like having a really good conversation. And the strippers were like, she's not dancing. Like, why is he throwing money? Like, and I'm like, well, he's talking about his dad. And that's just as important as dancing to him. Right, so they were like, no, you're not here for that. So I didn't know that was kind of therapeutic. So then one of my friends was like, yo, they was like, he let you go because you up over there talking to the guy for like hours. And I was like, yeah, but he seemed sad. So, and then, but I didn't know my calling yet. So then I just knew I was a good waitress. So I came back to Philadelphia and I started working for NHS as a residential counselor, still helping people in the field of helping. And I worked in residential for a long time, and I worked in residential also down south. So I was just getting to know people. So um, my dad, he went to school. He went to school at Lincoln, and he said it's a really great program, and I'm going to be a therapist. And I was thinking, okay, I think I could do that. I could talk to people too. So yeah, I started talking to people, and I got to know people, and that's kind of how it got started. And I graduated, and I started at Fairmount, and I was a tech on the floor, and I left my residential jobs, and yeah, and I left my residential jobs and I started therapy at Fairmount. And then I went to Haven. I met Blackman Hill. I met Taz at a really critical time in my life too. That's the person who's a part of Blackman Hill as well. Like I'm the founder. And I was inpatient only. So I'm used to dealing with people who they have to be in a hospital. Like they're trying to get out the hospital. They're trying to bust down the door sometimes. You know, they want to leave. They're 302s. So like Taz was like, well, these are people who want therapy. And I was like, really? Like, okay, you want therapy. You want to check in, like not in a hospital, but in a location. And she was like, yeah, that was my first time having experience with outpatient therapy. I was used to inpatient therapy outside of residential. So that was my introduction to what therapy was.
You said a lot of gems, so let's go back and we're gonna walk through it. I got you because you have a lot of history. You got a lot of things that you different avenues that you've been participating in. You said something earlier that I wanted to go back to. It's almost like you said you went through so much in your childhood with trauma. You went through your different things. Why I won't say why didn't it deter you, but I feel like sometimes people take two paths. Because your dad wasn't in your life, you're gonna not be in your kid's life. Or for my example, my dad wasn't really around, so it made me want to be in my son's life even more. What made you not get deterred from because of the trauma that you went through?
um, I like helping people, and I think the feeling of knowing what it's like when no one is there has really encouraged me to want to help somebody else, because I remember at a time in my life when I didn't have people to talk to, I didn't have people to cry to, I didn't have people to understand who I was. You know, I was constantly being parented, but not so much being consoled for, you know, being I guess they would say I wasn't, my feelings were not justified, or my feelings sometimes may not have been presented as valid as a child, because it's kind of like do as I say. So it's like don't question what I ask you, and you know when you don't feel validated growing up, it can cause trauma moving forward, because that's how you move in your new relationships. You know, you don't feel like you should be heard, or you could be heard. But I wasn't abandoned by my dad though. I had an estranged relationship with my mom growing up. So it's like living in a house with a father, you know, that's pretty strict. And, you know, obviously I think about object loss, you know, when you grow up, the first person that you meet is the first person that you bond with. And for me not to have, I don't have the ability to bond with certain people easily. That makes me go back to my childhood. You know, there were bonding issues there. But it didn't deter me, because I know that I could be the person that the person may have needed. And I know what that feels like, because sometimes I didn't have someone to talk to. And I just like to be that person that can help somebody else, because I know what it feels like when you're not being validated.
You also said something else too. That was a gem too, being that person that you didn't have. Did you explain that thoroughly? I know you were saying your story, but you said object law.
Oh, object loss.
What is that?
So that is when a person is born, and my apologies for not knowing the therapist, the person who created this philosophy. But when a person is born, it was really based off monkeys though. But it is a few examples with humans. So like when a person is born, like they become attached to whatever their what's in their environment. So what the monkey experiment was, you know, if the person is around their motherly figure most of the times, and they could be more caring towards others. They could be they understand situations more. They kind of know how to internalize situations properly and things like that. Now, when a person is born into an environment where there is no love present, there could be some intellectual disabilities going on. There could be instances where they have a difficult time bonding with others. They may have a difficult time understanding what's going on around them. There may be awkward towards others because there's no object for them to latch on to. And then sometimes when people grow up in social environments where maybe your family was not present, but then you have friends that are present, it gets closer to the mother bond, but not quite because it's not your mom, but you're not fully abandoned. So you kind of know how to interact with others. And then there are other situations like just warmth from someone. Like maybe you don't have food, but you don't care because that person is there to hold you. You know, those things matter. So it's kind of like mechanical versus love, or what would they say? Nature versus nurture, rather. So it's nature, like how am I naturally, or nurture, like is this how I was born and bred to be? So I think when nature is not present and nurture is present, that could be a barrier when you tend to grow up, because that natural instinct, that natural trust versus mistrust. Like if we're talking about Erickson's psychological stages, trust versus mistrust when you're a baby. Like if someone leaves you crying for like 10, 12, 14, 15 hours, it's no surprise that, you know, there might be some barriers growing up with attachment to other people, or just the way that you interact with others, or the way that you interact with yourself, because, you know, from the very beginning, there was no nature love, you know?
You dropped so many jewels in there. I can't wait to go get like the new stuff, because that, I think you said a mouthful. And speaking of like the nurturing, you spoke of and great. I love when I get to talk to therapists, because you can look at your situations, and I try to give like information to the people that going through the same experiences. So I think I know family members, I know friends of people who's lived in shelters before, and they had to go through different housing and different places of living. I think I learned a new term that they said you can't call people homeless, you call them unhoused. And so I know a bunch of people that was unhoused growing up, where they don't have that structure of, this is like you write on the wall of, yeah, I got this height, I got that height, I got that height. And so I think about, like you said, the loss of, like, I was afraid to write down personal things because I didn't know where it would end up. Can you talk about the long-term impact of something like that, of not having that kind of stability?
Yeah. I would say that it can create trust issues, abandonment issues. They show up with your friends. They show up in situations where you haven't heard from someone all day. Where have you been? Why haven't you called me all day? Where are you going? You know, like you hear that and you'll think, oh, this person is clingy, but you might not think, oh, this person was left alone when they were younger. They don't want you to do that. They don't know how to explain that to you because they don't even understand that that's what's going on. Or, you know, it can happen in marriages, you know. You wonder why someone needs a break from you, but they don't realize that breaks are healthy. But when you grew up, breaks were unhealthy because you might have never saw the person again. So it turns into it looks like something different. What I learned about therapy is where your fears lie and where your trauma may lie, or where difficulty in your life may have lied at one place in your life, and where you've grown to become defensive, when you've grown to become guarded, when you've grown to protect yourself in certain ways, it looks like something in another relationship. It looks like a text message that may seem like it's inappropriate, or it looks like inappropriate behavior. It looks like inappropriate sexual behavior. It looks like acting out. It looks like you have an attitude. It looks like she doesn't like to talk to other people. But that's what the protective coping mechanisms that have been. I say people are in survival mode. I say that some coping skills people have to learn how to unlearn, but at one point it protected them and saved them. I lived in a lot of different states. So the things that I've done when I was younger and I wasn't as, I would say I wasn't as tailored as I am now, or wasn't as respectful as I am now, or wasn't as aware as I am now. The coping skills that I utilized then, they were appropriate. They were appropriate because I was working at clubs where people danced. I was working at places where I could get hurt. I was working at, different places. I was around different people where those are not the people I'm around now. So now I have survival coping skills from then that I have to learn how to unlearn because they're not necessary now. And they can look like attitudes. They can look like, why are you speaking to me? Well, when I was around these people, they could have hurt me. They were speaking to me was a way of how can I pickpocket her? So now it's like, oh, I'm in a safe place where they're speaking to me. They really want to say hi. Where maybe in the past someone speaking to you was a red flag. So it looks like certain situations. So we don't know people's realities.
Again, a bunch of gems and jewels as always. I think to transition right into growing up into certain environments, and I know you're a big proponent of like mental health within the Black community, and so talk about, you lived in different states, like you said, different cities. Just talk about the overall like gun violence, overall like just the survival mechanisms that we use as a Black community to help cope in things in general, how it impacts us long term when we trying to navigate in this world. I know it's a loaded question, but I think you kind of get where I'm going with it.
I think that it was a blessing to have lived in another area down south. I lived in Philadelphia until I was 13, and I turned 14 in Mississippi. And my grandma lives in Mississippi, and my grandpa, rest his soul, he passed away, but he had a business down there. The whole time I went to high school, and I think the first year of college, that may have been the first 5 years, I think I've encountered one murder. And that's down south where I lived at. So for me, I came there and I was like, yo, people don't get killed down here. It's a lot of fights. It's regular stuff going on, but it'd be one murder that's a scandal. And then I went to Memphis. And Memphis had, a bit more increased violence, but it still wasn't anything like Philly. So what I noticed about down south is close knit. So even though it seems like, it could be a lot of not even a lot of disruption there in regards to Black people or crime or whatever like that, and maybe even Black versus white, I didn't even really experience that, which I know that it may sound odd because a lot of people say you were in Mississippi and you didn't experience that. I didn't. And I didn't experience hanging. I didn't experience some of those things. You might come across nasty comments, but I really didn't experience that. So I was fortunate. But I feel like it's a lot of communication down south, and I feel like it's very close knit down south, and I feel like it's a family environment down south. I'll give you an example. I moved down south, and the first day, two guys came to my house, and they was like, "Are you missing nobody's granddaughter?" And I was like, "Yo, why y'all at my doorstep? Like, are y'all serious right now? Like, I do not know y'all. Like, yo, this is out of pocket." Like, and I was telling my girl, like, "Yo, why you let them come to the house?" Like, and she was like, "Well, they just wanted to say hi. They just introducing themselves." I was like, people don't show up to your house to say hi. Like, this is not that. Like, in Philadelphia, like, that's a problem. Why are you at my door? Like, I don't even know you. So I had to get used to that kind of stuff. You missing nobody's granddaughter walking up to me saying hi. That everybody kind of knows everybody. They all go to the same churches. So there were ways, and it's not a lot of therapy down there. So there are a lot of interventions within the family. Somebody knows somebody knows somebody. Y'all need to cut it out. They can kind of get through the interventions, where here, I don't know why the culture is so, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like I do know why the culture is so different. People had to protect themselves down south, and they had to learn how to be there for each other. They had to learn how to get through their problems. Whereas though in Philadelphia, I don't know if it's because people migrated here and then maybe there was freedom, which that's a whole other story, because I don't really believe it was that much freedom here because it was still slavery going on down here. But maybe because of population, maybe because of so much diversity. I think of the term divide and conquer. It's so much diversity down here. It's so many ways to separate people down here, where it's just too easy for people to want to hurt each other because they don't have the coping skills they need to process their feelings, to understand what's going on within themselves. So like down south, they have to talk about it. You're going to see that person. But here, it's like, when the next time I see you, because I might not see you today. So, we don't have, I guess we have time to ponder. I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting, but I always commended Mississippi for, I lived there and really did not come across murders. And when I did, it was a scandal. And I come here, and we're up to like 300 murders. And I'm like, that's wow. Mississippi hasn't saw that ever since I've been down there. So I just think that people know how to talk to people down there. They know how to communicate. They know how to provide themselves interventions. They still have the older generation that means something to them, that they care about. You know, a lot of us put our grandparents to the side where they have the knowledge, they have the ability to bring families together. I don't think that sometimes in the city, families are not valued. It's a lot going on in the city. It's a lot of diversity in the city. It's a lot of violence in the city. It's a lot of people who don't understand coping skills in the city. It's a lot of influence in the city. It's a lot going on down here. It's just different. It's a different environment. I don't know if it's because it's more city people that are of other cultures that influence us. I'm not sure, but it's a major difference. I will say that I've witnessed that it's a major difference in violence. It's not that much violence down there versus up here. It's not. And I'm talking about the rural cities. I'm not talking about Memphis, because Memphis was bad. Like Memphis was first 48. I was blessed to live through Memphis. But again, it still wasn't the numbers that they're here. Mm-hmm. But we're also a larger city.
Right. Yeah, and we're more on top of each other. We're like, so I definitely understand too. And like you said, that's another conversation in itself. Like, I just wanted to get your opinion, especially as a therapist, some of the things that you run across when you hear and you talk to these individuals and you have these type of conversations, and then changing the reframing of mindset and the things you have to give to individuals to, you know, help them cope with their environments that they get into. So I appreciate you for sharing that experience. And
I think a major family environment. Mm-hmm. And aback. You know, moving to Mississippi took me aback because I wasn't used to that. I was used to, you know, I'm staying with my dad. We go to house or whatever like that. You sometimes you see your family. You know, my uncle was alive. You know, he made it a major family environment. But it has to be somebody that puts in that work. It has to be somebody that brings people together. It has to be somebody that wants everybody to know that we're having a barbecue today, and I want all of y'all here. You know, in Philadelphia, that might not happen, or I mean, it's a lot of jealousy and things like that. It's a whole lot of reasons why people won't want to bring everybody together. But down south, it just seems like families have discussions with other families and other people step in. Whereas though up here, I don't know, maybe the peers and friends influence people more than family does. But I think it has a lot to do with it. Like, I really do. Going to church with a whole nother family, and you know, that grandma having that conversation with that grandma, you know, that's her mom, well, that's her mom, that's his dad, and that's his dad. We all need to talk because the kids are acting out of control. Okay, bring them over. You know, people talk to each other down there, they figure it out. Like I said, 2 people came to my doorstep first day. I was like, wow, like y'all are bold. They was like, no, you just out now, and we're not trying to hurt you. Like, let that guard down. And up here, it's like, unfortunately, you don't know who's trying to hurt you, who's not.
Who's scheming, who's plotting. That they could be setting up the house and trying to see what you're doing. Nah,
you don't know what's going on down here, but fortunately, that wasn't going on down there. So it was a blessing on my end.
Right. From your experience. And I'm thinking about with even my own family, as dysfunctional as certain sides are, the ones in the South, they make sure to stick together. Like, family unions, they're always together. They always have a conversation. But the ones up here, I gotta force it to happen as opposed to naturally happening. That's an interesting dynamic that I didn't even think about.
Yeah, that's just something that I experienced. I don't know about anybody else out there, but that's my experience on it.
That it's a perfect transition into your recovery journal, therapeutic techniques that work.
Yeah, I wish I could have that. Why did I have a journal around me? I wanted to plug it.
Talk to me about that. You're already talking about book number 2. Let's go over book number 1 and how you got to that. What inspired you? Like, where the thought process come from?
The thought process definitely grew out of, what do I want to do with my life next? I told myself that, I think this was last year. It was like last year. And a friend and I, she does vision boards. And I said, you know, I need to do something different. You need to do something different. She was talking about she needs to do something different too. Her name is actually Jessica. Hey, Jessica. And she's a part of Black Man Hill as well. She's one of the providers. She's like the newer provider. So she loves to do vision boards. So I said, well, you know, I think I want to do a website. So I said I was going to do the website, and I need to start kind of posting different subjects that we can explore, different things that we can talk about. And we spoke about a lot of different ideas, YouTube channels, all types of stuff. A book was not one of them. So it's nowhere near my vision board. So I remember my dad said he was writing a book, and that was awesome. And that's where I got the Dope Therapist from, because I was selling shirts like Dope Therapist, and it was drugs oppress people everywhere. So that was like his premise, because my dad is in recovery. So um, he had his book coming out, and I told this lady, I said, you know what? I kind of want to do a book about cognitions and cognitive distortions. And I'll never forget. So my book still wasn't into play, but I still had a separate Instagram page on stuff that I was posting, because that was my motivation to keep posting, because it was different from, I have a Your Favorite Therapist page, and that was my regular page. That's my personal page. I'm posting what I want to post, but I try to keep it pretty positive, not ratchet, because I'm still saying Your Favorite Therapist, so I can't really be posting bathing suit pictures or nothing, you know what I'm saying? So then the other page was like more super therapeutic. Like now this is real, like super therapy. So I utilized that page as motivation. And I remember bringing 2 pages to the lady, and I was like, I just wanted to be a short story, and I think this would be enough. And she was like, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm gonna pray on this. And I was like, you don't think that's enough information? And she was like, no. I'll never forget that, because I was like, I swore I had a hit. I was done. So I was like, what's going on? So I was thinking, we would talk, she would keep it. I love when people talk about God. And she would say, like, Princess, I've been praying about it, so we just gonna keep on praying. So I was like, I don't understand what the issue is. It's 2 pages. That's the issue. So, so one day I just went click, and I was like, yo, I've been collecting all this information on my other Instagram page. Mm-hmm. What am I doing it for? So I was like, yo, we need to look at all of that. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I went back and started seeing what I was posting, kind of putting it into context. And I said, I want to do a skills book, a coping skills book, like therapeutic techniques that work, because I'm not going to introduce something that I don't believe wouldn't work for my practices. So these are things that I know can help change behavior. And I know some people don't really agree with behavior modification, because it's deep. It can change. When you change your thoughts, you can change your behaviors. And some people don't like the thought of it, but I think it's important if you have disturbing behaviors. So I put together that content and just asked the publisher, can you publish it? I'd be interested in it. And now I'm interested in writing more books, because, this is what I do for a living. So why not have the material to go along with it? And then I just enjoy watching my journey in this field, and just seeing how far can we go.
Yes, man. I was trying to make sure and it worked in perfect timing, because I was able to pull it up. So that
there we go.
I
Thank you.
Sure I get the plug for everyone. I still got to go pick up my copy, and I will be picking it up.
We supposed to exchange books.
I know that. That's why I said we still gonna do it. I put it in my to-do list. I was like, shoot, I was supposed to get the book before, but it's all right. I'm gonna get it. We gonna have and I'm gonna plug it once I get it. And have these conversations. But it is on Amazon. I always recommend getting people the physical copy from the person. So get it from Princess, please. But if
we both understand why.
yes. So please go pick it up. And order it. I'll put the link to her information so you guys can order it. But please go grab it. And I think it's great that you did it. And it was funny you were mentioning the author about, like, I had the same problem. I'm like, I'm gonna write a book, and then I pulled my information. I'm like, this is nothing right now. But it's what you said though. I had to realize that I was collecting this information over time, and I had to go through that information. It's like, I got more than enough. Now it's time to come down. But when you go to like, all right, this is it. And it's like, no, that's not enough for a book.
That's not it, actually. I was like, what is she talking about? What does she mean? And she was like, we just want people to pray. And I was like, oh. And when I showed her my content, she was like, yeah, I can work with this.
Right.
I was like, oh.
So I definitely understand. Make sure y'all go grab that. You mentioned something, and I didn't even know that it was an acronym. So you and I was telling Taz this not the other day, but more recently, when Doug got his Dope Therapist shirt. I'm like, but I'm not a therapist. But now when you said it was an acronym, please go back and explain that, because I didn't even know, and I'm buying a shirt too.
Oh yeah. So it's drugs oppress people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just, that's another conversation within itself too, because drugs have really flooded our community as Black people, and just knowing that there is interracial trauma, just knowing that there's generational trauma, just knowing those things, and we already have that we're fighting against, to allow a drug to come into the community and suppress us even more is such a weapon against our community that, I mean, that's a powerful weapon that they utilize. And I'll never forget, I recently went to Baltimore to go visit, and it was like Walk of Shame or something, and it showed people. It was a corner, and it's a wax museum, and it's a corner, and it's a lady sitting there, and she has her arm out, and she's shooting up, and then you have somebody else behind them, and they're doing drugs, and you have somebody else behind them, and they're sticking somebody up. And it was a representation of an America that, unfortunately, that's our reality. Our reality is we're very traumatized and pain in a pain culture. And a lot of people don't understand that there are coping skills out there that can help us manage that trauma, and manage that hurt, and manage that bipolar, and manage that anger, and manage that anxiety. And it can be hereditary. And if it's hereditary, that's something that can come from your family. And if it's coming from your family, it can trickle down through generations. So, it was sad for me to see, but it was a reality of what the work that I have to do, because I realized that it's a lot of people out here that have been hurt, that don't know how to get out of that struggle that they are in, and life doesn't make it easy when the odds are set against you. So first you have to kind of level out of the odds. First you have to get through middle school. First you have to get through high school. First you have to be able to ignore that peer pressure. And then if you want to go the American way, then maybe college. But I love reading Carter G. Woodson on the miseducation of the Negro. I remember he was saying in his book, we have been undereducated and really fed a lot of information that doesn't matter. A lot of our school books talk about the king and who did he cheat on with, and he had to kill his wife to get to another wife. What does that have to do with me? That has nothing to do with me and surviving in this country. Where's the skill that you're teaching me? Like, there's a lot of information that's in these books that doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. My niece was braiding my hair the other day, and I remember her saying, Princess, I said, we were talking about the things that she wants to be. And she said, I don't know. She has an illness. And she said, well, maybe I will be a doctor, maybe a diabetes doctor. I said, you braid hair. There's nothing wrong with you braiding hair. Yeah, but it's not a doctor. And that's where we've been fooled. We've been brought over here to be told, hey, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer. If you're interested in that, that's nice. If you have a skill and you already have a trade, you build on it. Because don't be fooled for 1 second. You could definitely make more than a doctor. That's some of the schemes that have been taught to us. And then you have us admire or aspire to be these things. When we get that far up, then the door is shut on us. Or we get to a point where maybe there's a failure because this really wasn't something that I was capable of doing. There's nothing wrong with it. But somebody has to be able to tell you when it's time to stop and start looking for your purpose. So like I told my niece, and I read this in the Miseducation of the Negro. You tell me not to braid hair, but then you bring over all these Asians who are making millions off of hair. And then you say, oh, or owning a laundromat, that's not a big deal. Okay, but when you own 10 of them, you're a millionaire. So you don't have to be a doctor to be a wealthy person. It's about exploring other avenues. And that's something that no one is taught in school, especially these public schools. And that goes to rich dad, poor dad. No one's telling you about saving. No one's telling you about these things. No one's telling you about building businesses. They're teaching you about things that doesn't matter. You teach me about lies. You teach me about Columbus, where he didn't find his country. Tell me something that's true. So it's a lot of miseducation out here, and then it's fed to us in particularly to keep us in a place where we don't end up learning how to create incomes, and then we don't support each other. I read that in the book. We don't know how to support each other. We only try to Oh, you know it's a Black business, so you know how that goes. If you see somebody fell, well, you knew that was going to happen. No, how about the person who just started their business? They're having a difficult time because you won't support them. But then you don't have a problem going to Ruth Chris, but you don't want to go to Dale North Pizza. That's a problem. I was at Dale North Pizza yesterday, and seeing all Black men in the kitchen cooking pizza and making a business is a beautiful thing. Take back our neighborhoods. Take back your Black dollar. You know, learning how to believe in yourself, learning how not to depend on other communities to take care of us. That's what one of the issues is. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. We don't know how to take care of our communities. And that's what therapy can help with too.
I had she done went in so many, from education, intergenerational wealth, to drug addiction in the neighborhoods, to all. I hope y'all got all of those different avenues and gems, because they all relate to mental health. They all go back to your wellness and overall wellness, emotional, physical, and all of the things that surrounding it. I don't want to keep you too long, but I did have one question that I wanted to ask to follow up the dope therapist, and how you manage as a young adult. And when I say young adult, I mean now you're responsible almost for your parents. We're getting into that age where we're responsible for them. How do you manage the trauma that your father is going through? You said he's battling things. How do you manage those things as a daughter?
He's a very independent person. He's married and he's the head of the household. So he's doing fine. I think that I would be more concerned with my mom's side of the family and just stepping in. I would like to be able to be a provider for my mom, but I also have to deal with my feelings from growing up. I mean, you know, I'm 37, but you know, sometimes it feels like I'm 7 when I think about some stages. And you know, it's a process for me as well. And I'll be realistic with myself about that.
That's all I need right there. Is there any closing remarks? I feel like the earlier, like 2 minutes ago, that was it right there. But you have any closing remarks in regards to? Oh no, I got one more question. Blackman Hill. What attracted you to Blackman Hill? Why did you do it? And talk about your experience, because you've been there since the beginning.
Oh, well, it was a perfect way to give back to the community. I knew I wanted to do that. I didn't know how to do that. And when Taz said, "Hey, I'm offering free therapy for people," I knew that I needed to spend my time somewhere where it's valued. I knew that if I died today, that you know, I gave back to my community. I wasn't just talking about it. I tried to make a change. And that's the platform that she offered. And I was more than thankful to be a part of that platform. I just want to help our community because I know that it's not just about helping one person, it's about helping a lot of people because we need healing within our lives in order for us to really create a culture of love. And that's something that they other cultures have tried to manipulate and put onto our cultures that we can't love each other. We can. We don't know how to. We have to undo some generational curses. We have to undo some things that we've been taught. We have to undo some of those jokes. We have to undo some of those stay out the sun, you might get black. We gotta undo stuff like that. You know, so now it's time to start undoing a lot of harm, psychological harm that's been done to us over a long time. So I don't expect for it to be undone in 2 seconds. You understand what I'm saying? Like this is 4, 5, 600 years possibly worth of damage. So it's one person at a time. And quite frankly, it has to be on a mass platform. So like I'm thankful for y'all that y'all was spreading into other communities because, you know, starting from Philly and going into other cities, that's what I'm talking about. Like I was like, okay, y'all not playing for real. Y'all hitting cities, okay. So like that's the move. Like that's how you get it done. So like y'all perfect example of, you know, set this thing on fire.
Nah, and I think all the work that you do in every capacity that you do it, because it's much needed as well. Like you said, is not one thing to just do it individually. You're taking your talents and skill sets and trying to hope and help in any capacity that you can. You literally pouring your life into these different capacities. So thank you for the work that you do, because it's well needed and well appreciated. Again, any closing remarks? I think you gave about 3 of them already, but if you got any closing remarks, please let the people know.
No, I just want to say thank you very much. Reginald, I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate what you do for other people, just being a part of that change. Like, we're change agents. And even though you say you're not a therapist, you're doing the work. It's just like somebody saying, well, I ain't the doctor, but guess what? You still making the same bread he is, but you still put in the work like everybody else. So you mean just as much to this whole organization, to this movement. Let's just be a great movement. Let's learn how to love each other. Let's learn how to be apologetic. Let's learn how to be forgiving. Let's learn how to start understanding other people's perspectives. Let's learn how to start respecting each other. Let's learn how to sit in our feelings. Let's learn how to be angry without wanting to hurt somebody in return. Let's learn those things. We have to learn how to do things differently. So watch what you're watching. Watch what you're watching on television. Watch what you're listening to. Watch these rap lyrics. Watch some of these movies. They glamorize violence. They glamorize us wearing these baggy clothes. They glamorize us spending our money on stupid stuff. They glamorize making it rain. They glamorize being shiesty. I can't believe when I was listening to Pooh Shiesty the other day. It's I'm shiesty. Well, I'm really shiesty. I was like, what you mean? Like, this is getting wild, and y'all glorifying this? Like, these men are not going to get better if y'all keep on playing these songs, if y'all keep on showing these images.
I love it. I'm sorry. I'm a part of it too, because I love it. Come get it back in blood.
Also aware. No, I'm not even. I ain't gonna say I'm aware. I'm gonna take that back. That's me being ratchet. I know that in my subconscious, you still have to be careful on what you're listening to. So I know that I can still do better, because it's still that subconscious thinking where we think, hey, I'm listening to it, but it's not really affecting me. Is it really not affecting me? Because it seems like it's being programmed into my mind, and it'll come out in a different way. It's like reading a book. You think it's not really doing nothing right now, but guess what? It's going to come out of you in a certain way at a certain time. So just be mindful.
Mm-hmm. Now, I appreciate that. I'll take that, Jim, for myself as well. Because like you said, you think, oh no, I'm around therapists. I'm getting all the resources. I got the mechanisms. I got that. But then it'd be like, what you say? And then you ready to do something just like it just comes out in a different way.
Like, listen, the bomb way, y'all yoga lifestyle, you with Pooh Shiesty in them. It's one.
Listen, thank you again. On that note, please follow Princess. I'll put her information down in the comments and below. I'll put the book in there, and making sure y'all can get the journal, because we need that information. Is vital. And remember that this platform has never been about a replacement to therapy. It's an alternative place where people share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.